Chic Conviction. I'm Melrose.
And I'm Lex.
And we're going to talk to you guys about envy. We're just going to have a girl chat and talk to you about our favorite face masks. So thanks for tuning in. And we're really excited. This is going to be, okay, I have to warn you, this is going to be, it's going to be a lengthy topic, but it's going to be a good one. And I think we have a lot to say and you have a lot to hear.
Exactly. So on the topic of envy, the reason we chose masks to do as a thing to share this month is because when we were developing the topics, we almost thought that envy, green with envy kind of went to the topic of like masks, right? Yeah. And since October is traditionally associated with Halloween and masks, we thought it'd be fun to share some of our favorite ones that we use. Yay! So Mel has one here.
So my favorite mask is the Derma Purifying 2-in-1 Charcoal Mask. I talked about this one in my last YouTube video, and I've also talked about it previously on my blog and on my Instagram, pretty much everywhere, because I just love it that much. You know those like nose strips for like the pores and stuff like that?
I can't use those because they like make my nose super raw.
Really? Oh my gosh.
But I have sensitive skin.
So I usually use the little like strips for my blackheads on my nose, but when I run out because I haven't refilled them, then I love using this because I feel like it actually works. And what's great about this is you can use it on like your T-zone. You don't have to use it like all over your skin, but I love using this and then applying overnight actually a soothing chamomile moisturizer by oh my god, what's the brand? They sell it at Sephora, so I know that. I'll link that down below after the video so you guys can check that out. And then Lex is gonna let you know what's her favorite.
So I don't have one in like to show physically, but I have the photo of it. This one is super cheap. What I like about this particular mask is not only can you get it from every normal retailer, so Walmart, Walgreens, whatever, it's also sold at the dollar store, which is where I pick it up because it's only $2. It's called the Queen Helene Mint Julep Mask.
Ooh, you can see that. I love that. Yeah, you can see it.
Yeah, and like as you can see, it's like $3 at Walgreens. But I like it because it's a cheap and effective way to kind of just clear out your face. Yeah. I have oily skin, and so this mask is really good because it absorbs all the oil and just leaves you kind of smooth afterwards. So I use that one, I would say almost bi-weekly because it's cheap, it's inexpensive. Well, cheap and expensive are the same thing, but it's inexpensive and it gets the job done. And I also wanted to share with you guys just a quick DIY mask that I do sometimes with my face, and it's avocado and honey. It sounds really non-traditional. A lot of girls use avocado and honey on their hair, but if you combine 1 ripe Hass avocado and about 3 tablespoons of raw honey, you can also use that as a mask. I like it because it smooths the skin and also provides a little extra moisture. So we're going into fall, we're going into the winter time. So if you have skin that's chronically dry, then maybe try that natural remedy. I like that sometimes too.
That sounds good. I also wanted to mention that for the Derma mask, I have a coupon that expires November 30th. So if you wanted to suck up on that, if you go to their website, Derma, it's DERMA, because it's derma.com, and I'll also link that down below. You can use the coupon Melrose and you get $5 off of the mask. So to go along with what Lex was saying, this is a little bit pricey, you know, if you were using this like every single day, which you can because it's actually that gentle. I also like that it has a scrub incorporated. So when I apply this and I'm going to take it off, like it has a scrub so I can get that, you know, get the rest of like the toxins and stuff off. But this is $20, so I recommend maybe, you know, if you purchase this one, to use it maybe once a week, so that way you don't like use it up, you know, like really quickly. And then you can use the one that Lex recommended on a daily basis if you wanted to do that, so that way you're not spending, you know, $20 every week.
Yeah, there you go. Ta-da! Woohoo! Yeah, so those are our masks. And so now we're going to get into the meat of the conversation, which is the topic of the day, envy. It's a big one. So we're first going to start talking about what is envy. This is a term that I think is tossed around a lot. But what is envy, how to deal with it if you are feeling envious towards someone or something, and then additionally, how to handle envy if it is something that you feel someone is feeling towards you. So Mel has a couple of definitions for envy that we're going to start with, just so that we're all understanding of what envy actually is.
Yeah. So what is envy? I have 4 different things. So envy can be wanting what someone else has, desiring others' stature objects, displeased about an event desirable for another, or feeling inferior to another person. So envy doesn't result from seeing someone do better, but it results from us remembering or maybe thinking that we are inferior to them, that we can't do what they did, or that, you know, we can't accomplish what they've accomplished, or we can't look the way that they look. So it kind of stems from those feelings of feeling less than that person is.
I have to agree with that. Sorry, don't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no,
but no, I have to agree with that, because sometimes when we think of envy, we think of it as, oh, she has this or someone has this and I don't have that, so that's why I'm envious. What it really is deeper than that, because at any stage in our lives we can acquire things. That's not really the issue. But the fact that at this particular time, because this person has something, you don't feel like that you can accomplish that or be in that same space, is really where envy stems from. So I have to agree with that.
So excuse me. One of the reasons I think that we feel envy, and I have 3 things that I'm going to talk about, but one of the reasons I think that we feel envy is because in that moment, we lose sight of God's purpose for our lives. So as you're scrolling through your Instagram, as you're scrolling through your Facebook, and you see a picture of a girl and she looks beautiful, or you see a picture of someone who was attending an event that maybe was very exclusive, or you weren't invited to, or maybe just your friend, you know, she has an iPhone, I don't know, iPhone 7 that just came out, or has things that maybe you want in your life. So when I was thinking about this topic, and I was trying to think, okay, what is it really that causes us that feeling of envy when we're scrolling through our Instagram or scrolling through our Facebook, and or someone that's close to us? What really is it? So one of the things that I felt, you know, within me and in my experience, is that when I have those feelings of envy, is the instant that I forget God's purpose for my life. And what I mean by that is, in that moment when I feel envy towards somebody else, I have lost sight of the path that God has laid out for me and the blessings that He's laid out for me. So the circumstances that surround us, including our relationships, our finances, our career, our resources, etc., are what God has entrusted us with. We are stewards of those blessings. If you want more, you have to be willing to give a lot more. So when you desire to be like someone else, to have what they have, to look like them, to even have the same friends, or be in the same inner circle, if you will, or even their creativity, their gifts, the things that God has given them, in a way you're kind of insulting God's blessings that He gave you specifically, because you're coveting someone else's, which are not meant for you.
Yeah, I agree. And I think also, like, to that point of knowing that God's purpose for you is your purpose, many times, like you said, you lose track of what it is that you have been called to do. And I think sometimes we can sometimes look at other people's calling and their purpose, and almost, like you said, covet what it is that God has entrusted them with, and think that why isn't that my thing? Right? Like, that's something that I may like to do, so why isn't that something for me? We have to realize, like Mel says, like, it's not, everything isn't for everyone. And that's something we all have to come to grips with. Everyone is not going to be good at everything. Everyone has not been called to do the same things. I am not called to highlight like Mel, because that's just Mel's calling, right? But what I can do as someone who is recognizing someone else's purpose is admire what God is doing in their life, and then recognize that God is also doing those same great things in my life, but in line with my purpose.
You know, another thing is that, yes, maybe what someone else is doing, or they have something that you want, may not necessarily be God's calling for your life or your purpose. But I also think you have to be able to differentiate, is this just really not in line with God's purpose for me, just not what I'm meant to do? Or my envy towards this particular situation or person, is it revealing what it is that I really want to do?
That's true.
You know?
And
like,
I think, go ahead.
For example, like, I don't know, we'll just give something simple. Like, let's say you have a friend who's a makeup artist, and you always see their work and you feel like, oh, why can't I do that? Or why can I, be a makeup artist? Well, maybe you really want to be a makeup artist, and maybe you being envious of that is simply a sign that that's really in your heart, that you want to make people feel beautiful, that you want to pursue a career in makeup artistry, or whatever it is. That's just an example. But maybe you can use that to kind of direct you in what it is that you're meant to do. We have underlying passions within us that sometimes don't come out until maybe someone else is doing the same thing, and then you're like, I kind of like that. I can see that my type of personality or my talent and my characteristics can do well in that industry or in that career. So it may be just like a signal of what it is that you want to do.
That's true. And I guess that brings up the point that there's a difference between admiration and envy. If you were admiring somebody because, like Mel was saying, they are doing something that you would aspire to do, that's perfectly fine. So admiring somebody for their gifts and their blessings and what they're able to do because you maybe feeling that that's something you want to do, it's a good thing, right? We feed off of each other. We're humans. We feed off each other's energy. So that's okay. So admiration versus envy. Envy can lead into negative thoughts and all that sort of thing. But admiration is recognizing that someone or something has reached a level or is doing something that you may aspire to do. And that's okay. Right?
So how would you avoid envy?
Well, I think what you said is important. Understanding that you have a purpose that is unique to you. And also understanding timing. I think that's a big thing. And it's something that I've struggled with, especially being in like my mid-20s. And like, I feel like my time is running out. I'll be 30 and like, all that kind of stuff. I'm really not that old, guys. And so I think timing is another thing. So avoiding envy, I think, comes with thinking introspectively and understanding that you have a purpose and that your timing is not necessarily God's timing. So say, for instance, God has blessed somebody with some amazing things, right? That you feel like you too should have. You have to understand that, number one, like you said, it may not be in your purpose, but if it is, it may not just be your time. There are seasons in our life where we're not, quote unquote, as fruitful as we'd like to be. But that's not because it's a dry season necessarily, but you're supposed to learn something in this season. So for me, it's understanding that things are cyclical. There's a morning and there's a night. That's always going to happen. So my blessings are going to come just like someone else's blessings are going to come. And then I think also being able to understand that, again, seeing someone else flourish means that God can do the same for you. I'm in this like women's group that we meet up once a month, and it's called the Motivated Tigers Group. Hi, girls. And what I like about the group is that every single one of the ladies in that group is amazingly successful, amazingly smart, and I learned so much for them. Well, I mean, I guess. But they're real estate agents, and one of them does life coaching, and another one does host events that are empowering here in the city. So that particular group, I'm surrounded by some amazing women. Like they keep me on my toes because I don't want to get left behind because they're moving. But the thing is, I am never envious of the things that they're able to accomplish. Right. Because what it does to me is I admire them, right? Like I was saying before, it motivates me. And I understand that what God is doing in their life, he can do it for me too. So that's how you kind of, that's how I do it. I just realized that it's all about timing. I have my purpose and I'm going to get mine too.
And one of the biggest ways to avoid envy is really knowing God's purpose for your life. So I know some of you are probably wondering, okay, well, what is God's purpose for my life? Maybe that's something that you're still seeking. So that's where the action comes in. So in order for you to prevent envy and be able to know what God's purpose is for your life, is for you to seek what that purpose is. Yeah. So what I'm pretty much telling you is that you should you should have the conviction that you know what God is doing within you and in your life. If you don't know what that is, then we have a problem.
Yeah, then you can seek it.
Then you should be seeking what that purpose is, because the worst thing to do in life is to just go through life and your career kind of like not knowing, like not having a passion, not having a clear direct goal, and knowing what it is that God has planned for your life. And I'm not saying you're going to know like what, you have your crystal ball and you know what's going to happen in the future or anything like that. That's not what we're saying here. But you should have some type of idea of what it is that God wants you to do, and and a way for you to maybe know what it is that God wants you to do is maybe looking at the talents and gifts He's placed within you. So, do you like teaching people? Are you a speaker? Do you like to, I don't know, like there's just so many things.
Yeah.
So your personality may be able to indicate you and what those talents and gifts are, and be able to tell you a little bit more about God's purpose for your life. And the second step would be like ask Him to show you, and be willing to experience life, take every opportunity that will lead you to whatever it is that God's calling you to do.
Yeah, I think also that sometimes envy creeps up because we see the highlights, right? We see people succeeding, we see people having things that we like to have. But
we see the highlight.
Right, we see the highlight, but we don't see the work that people put in to get there. So you also have to understand that when you are seeking your purpose, that's part of you doing your work so that you can be able to live and exist within your purpose. And to what Mo was saying before, I 100% believe that you existing and working within your purpose, within your calling, is going to bring you all the success and all the fruit that you can ever dream of, because God has blessed you with this gift. So operating and understanding what that gift is going to bring you not only a lot of spiritual satisfaction, you'll be fulfilled, you'll feel happy, you'll just feel good as a person because you're operating in a place that was meant for you. So I think, what Mel was saying is so important, that understanding that there's work that goes behind behind what you see and what you may be envying. And if you want to reach that place in your life, be willing to do the work. Right, you have to be willing to do the work. You can't just sit on Facebook and be like, oh my gosh, these people are doing so much, but then you log off of Facebook and you don't do the personal work yourself. Yeah. You have to challenge yourself to shut off the computer and do your work so that you can have those moments too.
Yes. At the end of the day, I don't care who you are. It's in our nature to always want to be in control. So that's another thing that I wanted to mention, was trusting God is something that we need to work at. So we have to make a decision of faith and actually remind ourselves that there's a plan in place. So everything that we've already talked about, yes, it's wonderful if you know God's purpose for your life, but the next step for you to prevent feelings of envy is trust. And you have to trust that there is a plan in place, and you have to trust that your blessings are coming in, and be willing to put in the work and be a good steward of those blessings, which, like I said before, they could be financial, they could be in regards to relationships, friendships, career, you name it, any blessing. God is not going to give you something if He knows you're not going to appreciate it, and if He knows that you're not willing to put in the work. It's like that verse that says, too much is given, much is required.
It's true, because you never know what it is that happens on the back end. You're asking God to give you all these things, but have you prayed so that your heart is able to receive those things? Have you prayed so that you're mentally capable to handle what it maybe is that you're called to do? Those things take a lot of maturity, a lot of responsibility. And so, you just have to think long term, if this is something that I want to have because I see someone else having it, well, am I willing to do the back end type of stuff to make it happen?
I have a few scriptures that I want you guys to write down if you want to look into them after the segment.
This is pen and paper time, so we'll give you 2 seconds to pull out your iPhone so you can get these scriptures together, because they're going to be helpful.
And you can read these, and what I would suggest is to write down the insights that you find that help you to trust God more. So the scriptures I'm going to give you right now are pertaining to trusting God more and knowing and realizing your purpose. So if you don't know what your purpose is, or you just need to trust God more, then these scriptures will be able to guide you. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start.
And additionally, I will, we can always leave them below too.
Oh, that's true.
I'll link them below as well, not link them, but I'll type them below so you can have it in the description box as well.
So if you can't write them down, or if they'll be down below. So it's Jeremiah 29:11, Matthew 6:33, Ephesians 2:10, Philippians 1:6, Romans 8:28, Proverbs 3:5, and Psalm 27:13 through 14.
And those are all, like Mel said, on the topic of trust, right? On the topic of trust. So, Mel, is there something or a time in your life where you felt like you didn't trust God and you didn't trust his purpose for your life? And if so, what happened in that situation? How did you get back on track?
So I think I've used this exercise multiple times. When I started blogging, it was very easy for me to compare myself to bloggers that were, like up there, that have like a lot of followers, or they've been blogging for a couple of years. And I wasn't trusting God's plan for my life, because honestly, if I'd never started blogging, Chic Conviction probably wouldn't be what it is today, because I would have never met Lex. I would have probably never had the courage to build this up. And if you don't know how we got started, you can read about us on chicconviction.com. But this has been a long journey, and I can testify to the fact that trust is a big thing, because I try to listen to those little those moments where God puts those little nudges in your heart, and you want to do something, but you're just maybe afraid, or you keep comparing yourself, and those things always stop you from actually going through with things and pursuing those things that God has placed in your heart. So when I began to trust God more, and I wasn't trying to compare myself to other bloggers, is when I started to see that God was laying out his plan for my life, and all these different blessings and all these doors have been opened and have unfolded in my life. So
I love that. Oh, all the feels. I have when you were mentioning that, or when you were talking about that, it kind of brought up a quick little anecdote that I recently recognized, and I think this is a real thing. So follow me, guys. So let's just say, how we are out of school. We're no longer in school. We're good and graduated and grown. Right? So when you're in school, there is checklist and not going back unless my job wants to pay for it. Hello. But how you're in school, and there is always a weekly test or an exam or something by which you measure your success by. There are these meters in life that let you know that if you pass this exam, you're doing well, right? Well, once you get out of school, there's really not life exams that let you know you're doing really good. I'm 24 and I'm doing it, and there's nothing there that lets you know you're doing well. And I think that's something that for me personally has been difficult for me to adjust for, because I was an over-exceller, right? I wanted things to be done a certain way. I was on top of things most of the time. And so excelling academically, or excelling in that perspective, was something that I attached my identity to. So when I was no longer in school and I no longer had those things by which to measure my success by, I inadvertently turned to see what my peers were doing, because schooling is a peer-to-peer thing. Oh, that's very true. Right. So when I see my peers traveling to Barbados and getting married and having kids, just FYI, I'm
all the memes.
Right. Like people having kids. I am unmarried with no kids. Okay, guys. So you can imagine the last 2 years there's been a baby post, marriage post. And I'm like, oh my God, am I failing at life? These people seem to be getting A's. But then I had to realize that God has a path for me too. I too will have all the things that my heart desires, because that's what the Bible says, that God wants you to have all the things that your heart desires. But you also have to trust his timing and understand that everything isn't in 6 months you get an exam. There's that rigidity that we're so standardized used to. Exam. Right. There is no standardized exam to life. So do not compare your life to other people, because that creates a sense of envy, and that also derails you from understanding that your purpose is different. So
and you're at a different pace.
Trust God. Yeah, you're at a different pace, but trust God, because it's all going to work out. It always does.
And you know what I've noticed too, and I just thought about this, is like, let's say me and Lex, just like an example is not really a thing, but let's say that I'm envious of, I don't know, an accomplishment that she's had in her life. Because maybe she's older than me, and just like life circumstances have allowed her to be at that point where she can accomplish, you know, X situation. So we also have to understand that there may be something like, so I'm younger than her, right? And let's say I did something in my life at my age that maybe like she didn't get to do. So that may cause a feeling of envy towards her, because it's like, well, you know, like that chapter already passed in my life, so I'll never be able to do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. And I think that happens a lot.
Yes. It's like, have you ever heard like that a lot of moms will put their kids in pageants because they want to like relive their life through their kids? It's like, that's not what we're talking about. That's a whole different thing. But it's like that concept of like, I'm way past that chapter, so there's no way that can happen for me now. And I feel like that's also a mistake.
Yeah, that's true. Because that has been lost, and that includes time. So if there is something in your life that you feel like you have missed or whatever, the Lord can bring those things to your life in the space that you are now. Nothing is ever truly lost when it's in line with your purpose, of course. Like if you were never supposed to be the president of the United States, you're probably not ever going to be the president of the United States. But like Mo was saying, little things along the way, if you feel like you're too old or you've changed things or you can't do things, that's not necessarily the case.
Or too young.
Or too young. Yeah, you just have to, and that's where we go back to trust. You have to trust that God's purpose for your life is so unique and so wonderful, and it's just all going to work out the way it's supposed to work out. And it does. At the end of the day, it always works out the way He wants to work out. We want to be in control, and honey, we are not in control. And I think that's the next point, right?
Yeah, the next thing I wanted to talk about was, self-control. So, and I'll tell you all the steps at the end. All the things that we've talked about, I'll kind of like wrap them up at the end, because I know it's a lot. But we worked really hard on, doing our research for this topic and really being prayerful about this, because honestly, it's something that's like impacted my life. Like
Same.
We are on social media, and this is real. Like I've been jealous of someone on Instagram or on Facebook, and so it's like, we've been through this. And the hardest thing for us to do, especially on social media, is to pause. Have you ever been scrolling and you just like you say all the time, you're scrolling and scrolling,
always
and
scrolling,
and you just keep scrolling, and it's hard for us to pause, especially girl, please tell me, especially when you have negative feelings.
Oh my gosh,
you're scrolling and you see I don't know, I can't think of like J-Lo or something, or like Kim Kardashian. And you see this picture of her and she looks so beautiful, and what do? When you feel that envy and you get mad, keep scrolling.
You can't.
You don't stop. You don't stop, and you're not like, what am I feeling? Why do I feel this way? How can I fix this? That's not what we do. We don't pause. We feel envy and we harbor it, and we just keep it inside of us, and you keep scrolling.
That's
and you
true.
Keep going through life feeling that way. So we either give into it, which is what I mean by you keep scrolling, you give into it and you let that envy just kind of sit, and it makes you mad, and you might get over it, but it's there. You might think that it's maybe gone away because you're not looking at the picture anymore, and that's why you keep scrolling. But it's in you, that anger or that envious feeling, and it just keeps building up. So we we either give in, which makes it worse, or we ignore it but never really goes away.
And the one thing too, when we ignore envy, like you said, it shows up in different places. For me, envy, and a lot of you can probably relate, it shows up in terms of self-deprecation. So like, let's say you look at Kim Kardashian and she's looking snatched for the gods because her plastic surgery made it so. And so she looks great, right? But the next time you look at yourself in your mirror, you're like, oh, I wish my, was this way. And I wish I looked a certain way. And like, you start looking at yourself differently based on the envious feelings that you have of a person that you don't know and have no relation to. So it may not show up in that moment, but it can show up in the way you begin to think of yourself, your life, your relationships, even your relationship with God, because you're thinking, this hasn't happened for me, Lord. Does the Lord really have these amazing things for me? I know that's what the Bible says, but is it true? So you really do have to check yourself, because otherwise these envious feelings turn into feelings of self-hate. It turns into feelings of depression and all those other things. So
you're like bullying yourself.
Right, exactly, based on something that you have perceived to be true.
And the tricky thing about it is it's not always something you're doing consciously. It's very subconscious. Like, let's say you're shopping. Like, this has happened to me. I'll like compare myself to someone on Instagram, and I'm shopping, and I'm just like, oh, like in my head, like, oh, this doesn't look how it would look on this person.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. Like, are you
so
kidding
true.
me? Like, but you don't realize it because, you're shopping, it's loud, it's like you're with friends, and it's like constantly just like going.
Right.
We don't stop, and that's the thing. So how do we practice self-control when we have these situations, when we're just like going and going? We have to literally stop ourselves and practicing that self-control. So the best that we think we could be is an ideal that usually comes from our social comparisons, like Lex said. So if you measure up, you feel good. Like, if I look good, if my picture came out good, then I feel good. But if you don't measure up, then you feel anxious. And then you feel depressed or even angry. So sometimes I have a friend who said to me, like, oh, I'm so like upset because I didn't get invited to this event and blah, blah, blah. And it's like a very exclusive event. And, I said to them, sometimes things are not as great as they seem, which is true. I mean, like, Lex could be at a party that I didn't get invited to, and I'm like, wow, she's having so much fun. It looks so amazing and blah, blah, blah. Lex could be having the worst time. Like,
social media is a lie, y'all.
But, and you know what the thing is? Sometimes people, truth serum.
Truth serum. Because we need it.
There's people that want to make you feel envy, that want to make you feel envious of them. They will, like, on purpose, they will post things to make other people feel jealous of them, creating an illusion that their life is perfect, creating an illusion of the place that they're at, or the people they're with. Like, it's like a mind game. They want you to feel jealous of them because it makes them feel better about themselves.
Oh, that is so true. And you have to think, like, those people have attached that sense of having people envy them as part of who they are as people. Sorry, I keep hitting the table, but who they are as people. So you have to realize that it's not always what it seems. And if you do come in contact with someone that you feel like is consistently posting things to make others envious, then you just have to know for yourself that that's probably not 100% true. And,
we're not saying that this is like everybody. Like,
oh no, it's not everybody.
When I post my photos at my events,
it's so authentic. She's having a great time.
Like, I mean, I honestly, I don't post stuff just to make people jealous. Like, I'm posting.
I don't post stuff at all.
I'm posting, number one, to build a brand. Number two, because I'm promoting my business or whatever it is that I'm doing. And number three, because y'all are my friends and I want you to know that I'm doing good. Like, and I want you guys to be a part of my life. So, if Lex sees that I posted something about an event, like, I'll invite her, like, she'll come out, and, I'm not the type of person that, like, wants to keep everything to myself. So, with us saying this, it's not like everybody is posting stuff just to make other people jealous. That's not what we're saying. That's where you're kind of like, you're discernment has to come in. You
That's a
know,
good one.
sometimes what people say, or I mean, sometimes it's hard to tell, but just keep that in mind. That's all we're saying. Just keep that in mind, that sometimes when you have those feelings of envy, it may be on purpose from the other party. So don't always think that it's your fault. Sorry,
one more thing.
Go ahead.
I think it's a dangerous thing to attach your identity to somebody else's social feed. So let's say, for instance, you have you personally feel like you are right. It's a dangerous thing to do. Let's say I, as a person, I see someone out there that I feel like is doing these amazing things. But again, and I think we said this in previous broadcasts, your social media feed is exactly what you want people to see. People don't see your lows. People don't see the work that you're doing. Right? They only see your highlight. So do not attach your identity or evaluate your purpose based on what other people are sharing, because it's just honestly not 100% how life is. So when you are doing these things, like Mel said, just be aware that that really is it. And sometimes people place value on different things. Some people value going to events more than they value family time.
That's very true.
You may be the person who values family time, so you don't share stuff of you going to parties and stuff, because that's not really what you value. Just because you value things different doesn't mean what you love is any less than what you see on social media, you know?
And talking about, you know, everything that we just said, there's a saying that it goes, it's a dog eat dog world, right? So in the workforce, or, you know, because we're fashion bloggers, so especially in the fashion industry, it's very common, whether it's taught directly or indirectly, that it's a cutthroat industry. So many people betray others, and stealing ideas is very common. So if you're a leader, people are going to want to do what you do. And this is kind of like another topic that another subtopic we're going into. So how to handle when someone has envious feelings towards you. So if you're a leader, people are going to want to do the things that you do. Sometimes there are more people that want to lead, because being a follower somehow diminishes them instead of empowering them. So I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of people want to be leaders now and not followers. Like, it's super cool to have more followers on Instagram than people that you follow. That's become like a thing. Like it's
that's right.
So dang it, I lost.
But I think you would, and I think that there's a good balance. It's true. Everyone in this day and age, everyone's got something popping, right? Everyone is doing this, everyone is doing that, everyone's got their own this, everyone's got their own that.
It's like the more followers you have, the more important you are.
Right. And that's not necessarily the case, because I know of some extremely influential, wise, bomb people who don't give two craps about social media and have no followers whatsoever, but they have extreme influence in their community and they're doing amazing things. So you just have to think that, you know, and then also sometimes it's okay to be a follower. Sometimes it's okay not to always be the head. Like, say for instance, like I use Chic conviction as an example. This idea was created with I guess with us, but the original idea was Melrose's idea, right? It's something God had placed in her heart before she even knew I existed. So, and it's true. So in that sense, before I came into her life, and then together we grew it to what it is today, but it was originally something God placed on her heart. So in that sense, I am, to a degree, even though Chic conviction is ours, I understand that the original vision was Melrose's. And so in order to get here, I had to follow the vision that God gave her. Does that diminish my role? No, it doesn't diminish my role, but I do understand that in that aspect, I do follow her, right? Right. So the same way with me, like if anything that I do, like, or at work, we use work, for instance, there are people that work under me, right? So those people follow me. Does that diminish their role in the organization? Not at all. They just understand that for certain things I lead, you know. So
that's a very good point.
You have to do both, because you can't lead all the time. You're not learning when you're constantly trying to lead people. And that's the beautiful thing about being a follower, is you get to learn. And I learned so much from Mel. I know I learned from any other mentor I've ever had.
I feel like you will always have to follow someone. Have to follow someone. You can't grow unless you're willing to learn from someone else. And that's the truth. Like, at the end of the day, like I learned from God. You know, like I wouldn't know how to be a good person if I didn't learn the things that I do through him.
That's right.
So what the world tells us is that we need to survive, right, to make it big. So this whole like dog world and cutthroat and this whole like spirit of like envy and things like that, like what does the word really say about this? Like I had to ask myself as I was, you know, doing my research on this topic, because I'm like, I don't really know. And one thing that I think is very true and will always be true is that we need to recognize leadership qualities in others just as much as ourselves, and let what they have learned be passed on to us, not to block someone else from being a blessing into our life. It's like the story of Timothy. I don't know if you've read that story in the Bible. If you haven't, then you should. But like he was so humble, you know, like to learn from someone that you could easily just be like, oh, what do you know? You know what I mean? But it's like having that humility to say, you know what, like I'm not going to push Lex down for me to get ahead, because it's not what, first of all, that's not what God wants me to do. Number two, there's always something that you can learn from the other person.
That's right.
So I have some other verses that you guys can write down, or you can get them from when we put them on the description below after this. And it's just a couple that pertain to envy, what the Bible says about envy. And it's Ephesians 4:22-32, Colossians 3:2-5, Philippians 2:3, James 3:14-16, Proverbs 14:30, Psalm 37:1-3, and 1 Corinthians 13:4.
Love it. There's so many ways that you could like think about this, because I think we're originally going into this idea of what to do when you are envied, right? Like
I think it's both.
Yeah.
What to do when you feel envy towards others, and what to do when you feel that someone envies you, which
it's difficult.
It's kind of like what we were just talking about. So we'll go more into that. So what to do?
It's a long chat.
Yes. So this is kind of like the last part of this conversation. So what to do when you feel like someone has envy towards you? So
that's hard. Like
Lex was saying earlier, we may never know. And this is talking to the person that envies and the person that you're envying. So both.
Okay.
So we may never know, like Lex said, what a person has gone through to get to where they are. So the challenges, the tears, the obstacles,
all the hard
the
stuff.
Finances invested in many cases. Don't be upset because someone accepted God's calling for their life or walked through a door that God opened for them. Or even an opportunity placed before them. I see so many people that, you know, desire what someone else has, but like Lex said earlier, they don't want to do the work. You know, it's really easy for you to sit at your computer and say, oh, you know, look at her, or look at him, you know, doing this or doing that. Or I had a friend who posted on Facebook the other day, and he said, and you probably know who I'm talking about, and he said, someone today called me spoiled, and I just want to let everyone know that I've worked really hard for the things that I have. And you know, he lives well, and he has a nice car, and he has a great job, and I know him personally, and I know that to be very true. He's learned to invest his finances well. He's learned through life experiences, through him going to seminars, going to conferences to learn these things, to be where he's at today. So it's really easy for other people to kind of like just go on Facebook or see somebody in a nice car and say, oh, you know, and say what they want to say, but you don't know what that person has been through. You don't know the sacrifices. Sometimes people make sacrifices with family, with finances, like everything starts from something. That's and right. You don't know where that person was. You only see where they are right now. You don't know. And we don't post that stuff.
Yeah, no one posts. I promise you, no one, unless it's like one of those people who's just like overly candid on Facebook, and we all know those people too. Like no one's gonna post when they're broke. No one's gonna post when they're in the gym. But what you will see is them looking snatched on Instagram, but you won't see them putting in the work. So it is so true. And I think when you're like the person that you were mentioning that has people who envy them, I think it's important to understand, like we were saying earlier, that is your purpose, that is your calling. You're flourishing because you are putting in the work. So while it's never good to feel it like you're in, I mean, you could be one of those people who kind of thrive off of it, but most of us don't like to feel that, because it's almost negative, right? People are envying you, and it could be like a negative thing. People want what you want, but you have to understand that your calling and what you're doing is always greater than you are. So if you are too worried about what other people are viewing you as, then you're not focused on what it is you're supposed to be doing.
That's true.
So it's like you have to focus. Like people are going to be mad because you're doing what you're supposed to do, but you're doing what you're supposed to do. So you got to keep going.
So I wanted to give you kind of like 4 steps. Hold on. Okay, 4 steps to achieving. 4 steps to getting to that point where you don't feel envious of what someone else has.
Good stuff.
The first one is be loved by God. Love yourself and others. That's just the first one. Seek your purpose and actually take action, like we talked earlier, to know what that purpose is. Number 3, ask him what you need. That's like so important. Because sometimes we think, oh, well, God just knows. All right, we'll ask him. And if you seek him first, everything else will be added. And he knows the desires of your heart. Number 4, focus on the exclamation point of your life.
I like that last one. Focus on the exclamation point of your life. Because we all have one. There's something
focus on
cool
your passion.
happening. Yeah. I love that. And that's so important too, because I know for me personally, sometimes I look at the negative more than I do the positive sometimes, which causes like me to feel like, hey, everything's terrible and going down a black hole of sadness. But there's something good going on. Just because you're not where you want to be doesn't mean where you are is terrible. So focus on, like Mel said, the exclamation point of your life. And that's really, I love that.
And when others feel envy towards someone else, they try to diminish them. And
that is so true. That's like saying, oh, she got that car, but girl, you know she ain't really doing what she's supposed to do. She got to be but in real life, maybe she was doing all the right things. Like don't diminish other people's accomplishments either.
Don't let that be you.
Yeah, because I think girls do that a lot. Can I just be honest? I feel like girls do that a lot. Like sometimes I'll talk to some of my good girlfriends.
Oh, well, she's not even that pretty.
She's not really doing it. She got 10,000 followers, but half of them is bought and blah 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 blah. Like I've heard conversations like that. Don't be mad. Either you're going to fix your life and get it together, or you're going to stay having these conversations. And no one wants to be the petty Betty who is always having these bad conversations. Don't be petty Betty. That's what I'm gonna make the title of this. Don't be petty Betty.
So don't let that person be you. And one point I wanted to make was, I'm not going to get into like all this, make it too long, but there are like, and I think I said this when we had our #NoFilter conversation, where we talked about how certain people will try to keep you in their life to receive some kind of benefit and things like that.
That's true.
So if you feel like maybe someone else is having envious feelings towards you, and the way that you can tell is sometimes they're just trying to mooch off of you, or maybe they copy you all the time, or there's certain indicatives that let you know that person's heart behind wanting to be close to you, wanting to be your friend. Address what you need to address. If you need to cut somebody off, then just do it. Because you know what? There is value in what you do, and God has a plan for your life. And honestly, the more you start growing, the less time you have to entertain those types of people.
Gosh, it's so true. Sorry, I'll let you continue. It's so true.
So that's one part. And then the other part, because we still have the Jesus part.
Always.
Because you cut people off, but then.
But God.
But God. 1 Corinthians 13. We all know this. But verse 4-5 says, love does not envy or boast. We don't need to boast in order to prove that we're worthy, blessed, equal, or higher. In due time, God will promote you. This is not the verse anymore.
It ended at the boast.
Yeah, it ended at the boast. Someone else's talent, gift, or blessing is not a threat. One bulb, and I wrote this, one bulb doesn't light up a whole city. In the same way, it takes all illuminate the world.
You preaching today, Mel. Mel is preaching, y'all. Did you catch that? Did you catch that? That was good.
Okay, I'll say it again.
Say it again.
Because I feel like I didn't put enough emphasis on certain parts.
No, you preach, Mel. We listening.
So the verse is 1 Corinthians 13, 4-5. It says, love does not envy or does not boast. Unquote. We don't need to boast in order to prove, to prove that we are worthy, that we are blessed, that we are equal, or that we are higher. In due time, God will promote you. Someone else's talents, gifts, or blessing is not a threat to you. One bulb does not light up a whole city. In the same way, it takes all of us to illuminate the world.
That was so nice. I love that because it is so true.
Yeah.
Good job, Mel. That was good. I love it. Oh my gosh.
So the last thing that I have, honestly, is kind of like the most obvious thing, but we probably don't do.
I feel like we talk about this in like every podcast or broadcast too, like to an extent, like, a different version of this because it's so important because we just do spend. Okay, go ahead. I'll let you.
But so restrict the time that you spend doing the things that cause you envy. I know, sounds simple when you say it, right? So one thing I wanted to say was, because how do I deal when I'm on social media and I'm feeling all of these, I'm getting mad because Kim Kardashian, whatever, you just need to get off your phone. I know, like, you're just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. That should be like our thing. Scrolling and scrolling and scrolling.
Theme song.
Just stop, girl. Just stop. You know what? I've been making certain decisions in my life lately, and I've been just cutting off. Just, not social media, but just cutting off people and just cutting off things in my life that, and it's just like, it's too much. Like, it gets to a point where you have to focus on yourself. You have to focus on your relationship with God. You have to focus on what your purpose is. You have to focus on what you're going to do for the rest of your life. And that includes so many things. How are you spiritually, physically, emotionally, mentally? Like, how are you? Like, if you're on social media all the time, how do you know? Especially when you're scrolling and scrolling and you have these feelings, but you're not doing anything to fix that. You're not doing anything. Like, why am I feeling this way? I may be envious of this person. So then go back to the steps that we're talking to you about today. Know God's purpose for your life. Trust God. And that is an action. I'm not telling you just, I trust God.
No, it's a real thing.
You have to remind yourself every day, why do you trust God? Put your trust in God. Restrict yourself of the things that cause envy in your life. And what was the other one? And practice self-control.
I have another one. Well, it doesn't go into the flow of anything, but invest your time into things that make you happy. I think that's a big thing. I think that kind of flows into all of this. Restrict,
and then you spend on, the good.
Yeah, exactly. So let's say, for instance, and this is an obvious example, but we do spend so much time on social media. It is like the source of so much negativity. It's good stuff, but sometimes it's a lot of bad stuff because, again, it brings that sense of comparison. you have to do things that make you happy. This is just in life. It's not even really about like envy, but like in life, you have to invest in things that make you happy. Otherwise, time passes, right? And the time that you spent being envious and analyzing the life of somebody else is the time that they were spending being on their grind, and then you're still going to be mad, and they're still going to be, you know what I mean? Like, you have to invest in things that make you happy. And in that way, you are operating in your gifts. And again, that is going to lead to personal joy. That is going to lead to the success that you want to see in life. But you have to invest the time. Like, at the end of the day, and this is just hard, this is just tough love, you are never going to see the results you want to see in your life if you do not do the work. And it's in any aspect. And it goes back to the last thing, restricting the stuff that makes you feel bad so that you have more time to do the things that you love.
And it could actually come full circle, because if maybe you don't have anything that makes you happy, so then it goes back to square one. So what is God's purpose for your life? So start seeking that. So our summary, because I know it was a lot, but our summary is: know your purpose, trust God, practice self-control, restrict the things that cause envy, and do the things that make you happy.
Yep. That's it, guys. It sounds simple, but it does.
All right, everyone can go home now because
we're done. clocking out now. I think I do too. Those are life things. And I don't want anyone to look at us and think that, oh, those girls, they got it all together, and look at them and they're giving us tips. These are things that we have learned from failing and things that we have learned through life experiences that have made us who we are today. And we don't ever want anyone to feel like we have it all together and all that sort of thing, because we're growing too. We're growing in our purposes every day. We are seeking to find those things from God. So we want you guys to grow with us. We want this to be a place where everyone can grow, find themselves, and be great.
It's funny because, okay, I know we've had this topic for a long time, but the past 2 weeks I've been like, like doing research and just kind of like doing like my study and praying about it and stuff. And like, girl, I was tried. It's so funny because every time like there's something that God wants you to like dig into, you're always tested in it.
Yeah. Oh,
it's so crazy.
A good one. That's true.
Because like these past 2 weeks, I'm like, how am I going to tell these people not to be envious? And I'm having these feelings. It's like, you know what? Then that's where I have to go and ask God, like, how do I not feel this? How do I handle when someone feels it towards me? So everything that, we've said to you guys today, or we've, given you guys today has been like, for real. We have like studied, we've been through this, like this is like real, raw, like it's something that we're just gonna have to deal with our whole lives on social media and just life in general, even with family. Yeah. So
oh my gosh, that's another one. Okay, sorry, I know we're done. But with the whole family thing, okay, because that's another layer of intricacies as well. When you feel like there's someone in your family that is envious of you, and or you have feelings of envy towards family, another level. And that only struck my heart because I feel like it's a real thing. Yeah, that's another thing. Because when you have to think about it, social media is different. People in your family you actually know to an extent, right? So I think having envious feelings towards personal friends or family is a little more difficult because those people are directly connected to you. People on social media don't know.
It's almost like you're not allowed to be jealous.
Yes, exactly. You feel like, I don't know what this is, but you have, again, it always goes back to the fact that everyone has their own purpose. And with family, sometimes we feel like we know them and because you know everything about your cousins and your auntie, them, you're like, why are they doing so well and blah, 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 blah. And maybe they didn't do it, but you have to realize again that everyone is different. And as people, we have this crazy ability to judge. We judge people and we judge their backgrounds. We judge who we think they are and can critique how far we think they should be in life, but we aren't God. And so when we have these feelings of envy towards people that we know personally, whether it be family, friends, or otherwise, you may think you know them, but you don't know their journey in Christ. You don't know their journey in life. So like with anything else, those feelings of envy, You just got to check him at the door and just realize that you got to focus on your swim lane. Have y'all seen that meme of Michael Phelps? He's swimming and he won, obviously. And then there's the one guy who's obviously looking and checking for Michael Phelps. Well, old dude didn't win. Michael Phelps won because Michael Phelps was focused. So you have to be focused. So that's it. Sorry, I just thought of
So I think we wrapped everything up. All of the scriptures and everything will be on the description down below once the video replay is up. And we also want to let you know our next topic for November will be layers.
Finally, y'all, it's so funny. We had our event, our Sweet and Chic event that I announced the wrong topic for this one. I said layers. The layers is November.
So in November, we're gonna be again at the Downtown Divas Boutique. We're gonna be live streaming from there with Christina Marcico from Fashionality.
Amazing.
She's gonna be styling some looks, some layered looks for us, so you guys can check that out. How to layer in Florida.
Oh my gosh, that's an essential.
Yeah. So stay tuned for that, and you can subscribe to our channel so it'll let you know like when we're gonna be live and everything. You can also stay tuned on chicconviction.com and also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We're trying to get our followers.
And share too, guys, in terms of these videos and stuff. When you see it come on YouTube, the actual cool edited version, share it, because we want to make sure that this message is reaching as many people as possible. If it moved on your heart, we would love for you to share it so that we can continue to grow.
And we will also have this on podcast version.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So if you know somebody that's really busy, they're on the go, you can just send them the link to our SoundCloud once we have this video on there.
Link will
as a podcast. And then you can send that to them. They can listen to it on the car, on the way to work, or anything like that. So that's really, really great.
So I think that's it. Thanks for watching. We love sitting and chatting with you.
I know. The time has come.
All right, to say goodbye.
All right, guys, stay tuned on all our social media for our next podcast, November.
The first Saturday in November. We'll be here, same place, same time.
Same place, same time. We love you guys. Bye. Thank you for supporting Chic Conviction. If you would like to donate to Chic Conviction, incorporating for, we're trying to become an official nonprofit organization.
So we can do
501c3.
C3.
Then you can donate. Just search for Chic Conviction, or you can message me and I'll send you the link.
Certainly.
Even if it's like $1.
Yeah. So we're trying to make sure we can do the work, guys. If you don't, outside of these broadcasts, we're trying to do things in the community, y'all. We're trying to put in the work. So.
Yep, we have actually a lot of fun things we're planning.
I know. We're always up to something. Those Chic Conviction girls.
So thank you for being a part of Chic Conviction. We love you guys, and we'll see you next month.
Bye.